Today, we are living in a marriage crisis. We are living in a baby crisis. And I believe God wants to make marriage and families great again. Welcome to The Overflow, and today we're going to make marriages and families great again because there is an all-out assault. There is an attack on our families. There's an attack on marriage. There's an attack on babies, and the statistics are stunning when you dive into it. When you look at marriage, just going to read some statistics. Susan, before I get into that, what do you think?
Oh, well, you mean on the topic?
Yes. Well, sorry, I just whiplashed you.
Can I be honest? I was getting poked by a feather from a pillow, and I felt like I'm being attacked by a feather, but it's okay. I'm pulling it out. Right.
Well, I was like, I think I'm going to be talking too much, so I want to give you, there it is.
There it is. It was, do anyone have this?
Yes.
I'm just trying to live my life.
Some people are super allergic to pillows like that.
Well, anyway. This is a very important topic.
Yes.
And truly, it is it's a critical topic. And we're living in a world where this could also creep up on us slowly. As someone who's now lived a few decades under my belt, I think about just the temperature and the climate of our world and the messages about marriage and family and babies. And what's the role, I'll speak for me, the role of a woman in the home. This is a critical topic that I believe we need to be eyes wide open to for our own personal lives, for sure, but also for how we lead people that God has entrusted us with. If you're a parent listening to our voice, this is a message you have to hear. If you are single today and you're listening to this, you need to lean in because God has a word for you. Wherever you are, truly, we need to have our eyes wide open.
In 1960, Susan, 83% of all adults, okay, so if you're of adult age, it was like 25 to 55, if 83% of all adults were married.
What year?
In 1960. So here we are, and today's statistics show that only 57% of all adults are married right now.
Oh, wow. Listen to this on the married thing. Okay, so I was seeing from someone I follow that I trust, I was seeing this percentage comparison. So Americans married by age 30.
Yeah.
And it's like men and women. What's the different percentages? 1975, 91% of women were married by age 30. 91%. In 1975, 81% of the men. So a little less than the women, but man, 81% of the men. I won't give you all the different time frames, but let me just fast forward to 2025. So 91 women, 81% men married by age 30 today. 25.6% of the women are married by age 30. And 16.5% of men are married by age 30 in one poll.
We have a marriage crisis, a big time, full-blown marriage crisis. And then on the baby front, did you know that in 1960, this is marriage as well, but in 1960, only 5% of kids were born outside of marriage. Today, 40% of kids are born outside of marriage. And again, we stand with all our single spouses, single moms, single dads. We stand with them. We surround them.
Yes.
But this isn't a conversation about that.
No.
This is a conversation about how God has a design for people.
Yes.
And God's design is be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and govern it. And he said it not just to Adam, and then he came over here and talked to Eve. It was to them together as a family.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I want to just hit on what you said because I think it's an important umbrella comment as we move forward. This is not a message of shame for mistakes made. This is not a message of it's too late for you because of where you currently are in your life. If anything, our message is the absolute opposite. In fact, we believe with all of our heart, the greater the mess, the bigger the miracle. The greater the mistakes, the more in awe we are of what God can do in a person's life surrendered to him. And so our heart is not, and our belief is not a message of shame or condemnation for someone who finds themselves caught in the trap. Our agenda in this conversation is to expose the trap, to expose the cultural mandate, if you will, that is in direct opposition to God and his awesome design and why it's a big deal.
More bad news. We have average age at whenever you first get married, okay? Men today, the average age of when men are getting married is 30. The average age where women are getting married is 28. This is the highest ever recorded ages, and this was done in 2024 U.S. Census. Highest ever recorded ages. We have a marriage crisis, and it's a God-designed crisis, and I agree. We don't have to throw in more pillows. People can hear our heart. But also, we're going to proudly lift high God's design and proudly lift high God's vision, even if you may be called to singleness or you may be a couple who, for one reason or another, do not have children. We're still going to lift high God's design and his vision for humanity. And want to talk about getting married. And one of the first things would love to talk about is just the, first of all, want to talk about getting married and all of the different flags people will throw out there about why I shouldn't get married. Okay. There's several that I found. One of them, the things that people statistically say a lot about not getting married is it's just a social construct. Okay. Marriage is just something that we made up. We don't need marriage. Well, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that you can only say that if you were the creator of marriage. If you didn't create it, how do you know what it needs? And so if we look back at the beginning and God himself gave the blueprint for marriage when he was creating all of society, all of the world, and he created man, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. And this is Genesis 2:18. It's not good for man to be alone. And so then he said, I'm going to create a helper for him. God was making a forever point to let us know, I have a design here. And I'm even stopping down before I'm finished with my design so that you'll know going forward, I have a plan for companionship, but I have a plan for family. Because then you see the blueprint play out where God says, for this reason, a man and a woman will leave. A man will leave his mother and father and will cling together to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So that's a blueprint of God's design. And he says, it's one man and one woman in a covenant for a lifetime. It's a new family where sexual intimacy happens as created and described by God, prescribed by God, in the context of that unique human relationship that begins a family unit. And so there's something foundational about family. And I think to the argue of, well, what is it? It's just a piece of paper.
It's just a social construct.
Social construct. No, this is a God-ordained creation. And I think it's fascinating and important to understand that when you look at the creation of the world through the Bible, which we believe with all of our heart, that the first institution was family. That was the foundation that God decided to build humanity upon.
And cultures all over the world embrace marriage, and cultures all over the world historically through millennia have embraced marriage. It is not just a social construct. This is God's design. I believe it's so deep. It's a part of what we call natural law. It's that part of what's right and wrong that the whole world just agrees to, whether or not you love Jesus, believe the Bible, or anything else. And natural law falls into that category of it's a part of the dignity God stamped you with. It's a part of the imago Dei, the image of God. And the image of God wants marriage. Saved people want marriage. Christian people want marriage. And lost people want marriage. When you're in a restaurant and you see a couple proposing, the whole restaurant turns and is in awe, and they clap and they cheer. There's something about it. When we have entire shows that have been driven and circulate around marriage and around it. And it's one of those themes. It's life and death. It's food and happiness and pleasure and marriage and babies and parenting.
Yeah, it's wild. You may be sitting at a wedding ceremony or viewing a ceremony on TV, and if you see a heartfelt exchange of those vows, or you're in that moment and you're just seeing the beauty of the bride and the groom awestruck by the moment and excited to see his bride, it moves you emotionally.
Yeah.
What is that and why?
Yeah.
Because it's deep.
Yeah, it's more than a social construct.
Yeah.
This is a God thing. And then second, here's another big one. It's just a piece of paper. God knows. So living together is the same thing. So this is I won't commit. It's just a piece of paper. Living together is the same thing. There's no difference. I have a first response to that, and then I'll love you to weigh in. And my thing is, if God knows, then why won't you? What is the stronghold that you will not commit to that piece of paper? Like, why wouldn't you commit to that piece of paper? If it's like what is it that's holding you back? I think you're revealing the mystery of marriage.
Wait, when you said if God knows, what do you mean?
Well, God knows who I am. God knows who we are. God knows our relationship. God sees us. I don't need the institute of marriage. I don't need the ceremony of marriage. God sees us. God knows. Living together is the same thing. And I would just say, well, why wouldn't you marry then? Like, what is it? There's something that you're just staying away from it. There's something that you're backing away from it, and you're trying to do it this other way. What is it that's keeping you away from it? It's because there is a holy reverence for marriage, and the relationship that you have is not the same as a marriage relationship. It's not the same commitment. It's not the same covenant. And that's another thing. I don't want to get married because, that's happened before and somebody took off with my money. Well, that's what marriage is. Marriage is you're all in. Yeah. The two shall become one, one flesh. And you're risking that. And that's why you need to be careful who you date. But playing marriage, which lovingly love everybody and would love for you to find God's design in this, but it is not the same.
No, it's not the same. And it's a similar answer to the social constructs. I think these are very, very similar, overlapping. But we have an insatiable, repeated way as people where we want to be in charge and we want to be the creator.
Yes.
I want to create my story. I want to create my own life. I want to write my own paper. I want to write my own way things should be done, my handbook, if you will. And so we try to rationalize that by dismissing and demeaning God's design for marriage and saying, just like the snake did in the garden. Did God really say this about marriage? Did God really say this is how I'm going to create?
Same thing.
Did he really say? And we try to demean or dismiss God and then write our own rules. And what happens is we find ourselves in a place of heartbreak every single time. It's not a matter of if, it's when and what it's going to look like. But the percentages of couples who live together and then get married, that divorce rate inevitably is higher. And there's so many different elements. I mean, that are just so heartbreaking. It just made me think of this. We sat, I think it was like our anniversary, or it was some event we were celebrating recently. We were at a recent celebration and we saw this darling couple walk into the restaurant. I know you're going to remember this. They walk into the restaurant and they are so young and so cute, and they sit beside us, just at the table next to us. And we were like, oh, this darling couple. And it wasn't long until we heard him talking to the waiter and talking about how they'd been living together for years.
Yeah.
And as I looked at her and we looked at them, our hearts ached. Because for one thing, I imagine her as a girl, as a woman, and how insecure that relationship feels. I may harden my heart and try to tell myself I don't care. But to think that this guy, it's a real transactional situation. I give him my body, we sleep in the same bed, but he could leave at any point. And there really are very little strings attached. And she, as we watched that sweet couple, is giving him the prime of her youth to this man who's not committed. And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. And it reveals another element, I think, of why people not getting married, and that is they're dating so long.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those big, huge flags that pastoring a church, if you're dating for years, honestly, unless you're really young,
which needs to then have specific parameters.
Yeah, massive parameters.
Massive.
But as you enter into marriage years, and in our culture, marriage years has shifted and moved. But I would say marriage years begin in our culture, 20, something like that?
I mean, I think you start dating at 19, you're a young adult. If you continue for years and years and years, that's going to get harder and harder and harder to follow God's design.
I could understand getting out of college. I could understand that, getting out of college and then getting married. But what people do is post-college, that just represents a real season, college does. But if you're not in college, I would even challenge that, if you're not in that very specified season, what's going on here? What you're dating for so long and it leads to kind of the next big thing. And that is the big category of childlessness, of the birth rate. And we have a crisis of the birth rate. And part of that is that we're dating so long and we're not getting married. We're not ready to have kids together. You enter, like you said, giving away those prime years as a woman. You're giving away fertility years as a woman.
Yeah. And, I want to talk about dating for a minute and marriage, because as you said that, and I'd love your thoughts on this too. But it goes back to, what is your purpose? Like, do you know in dating, what is your purpose? And I believe our society has a lot of purpose that society throws at us. And honestly, it partners really well with desires of my heart. Because purpose for dating can simply be entertainment. I'm bored and I want to be entertained. It can be pleasure that can quickly turn into sexual pleasure and just a misunderstanding of God's design for sex and really believing it's not that big of a deal with whomever you want to have sex with. And so we're driven by a purpose of pleasure. It can be a placeholder. This is so real, of where you're lonely, you feel loneliness. And rather than, what if some of us decided, all right, I'm in a lonely season and my loneliness and how I walk it out is part of my worship to God. It's part of my sacrifice to God, that my waiting is my worship. But instead, a knee-jerk reaction is, I got to fill it. I got to have a placeholder. Maybe it's not my spouse. Okay. But in the meantime, this person's funny. This person's a warm body. This person's someone to go to dinner with, to talk with. And so we put placeholders in a spot where God said, if you would wait on me, I have someone in mind for you. And I think dating prolongs when we slip into these traps and so many others, where we lose our purpose and the why of dating. When God's why, I really believe the core of dating is the process of connecting with your spouse, that you're on a journey to together discover, the husband discover the wife discover her husband, and to make that commitment. I
think also among men, and now it's happening with women too, is the pornification of our culture, is establishing unrealistic expectations. And really, you've lived so much in fantasy that you can't live in reality. And so you keep delaying it, can't find somebody that makes you happy, all that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about fertility, talked about babies, and we have a crisis in marriage. We have a crisis in fertility, big time crisis. Our culture requires 2.1 babies in a culture per woman. Okay, so in the population, our women are producing 2.1 babies in their lifetime per woman.
An average,
That is an average, where you can't do a 0.1 baby, but as average, you have 2.1 babies per woman, and that replenishes the population. It allows the population to replenish, and basically those that are aging out are being the same number as being born in. Our culture today is at a 1.6. And when you look at Western society, you see this drop in fertility. And there's a lot of culprits. Everybody's asking the question, why? Everybody's trying to figure out why. And there's a lot of different options. Obviously, abortion is a big deal. But there has been a great rise in the infertility rate since 2001. And so that doesn't necessarily explain with abortion alone. In other words, I think as many people are being aborted now as they were then. Maybe less, I don't know. But I don't think that's really the great answer. I believe it's the living together, it's the dating later, it's the waiting to get married, and you're out of that window. You're not going to have as many babies. And it's the secularization of our culture. It's the pornification of our culture. But what's happening is a drop from 2.1 to 1.6. And it's actually dangerous. Before I get to why this is important, anything you want to say about that?
Well, I think, again, markers like this help us know where we are as a culture. And for me, it just says to me, go back to God's design. What was his intention? I mean, when he created Adam and Eve, as we just talked about, and gave them the blueprint for marriage and put them both on the planet and brought them together, his next thing shortly thereafter was go and multiply. Fill the earth. I mean, I don't know how more specific you can be. And why is that? It's because God loves people.
Yeah.
And he sees us. He has seen us in his mind's eye before the beginning of time. And it's such a miracle, the fact of how a baby is created and just there's no explanation other than a creator of that baby being brought into the world. And so I think understanding that that's God's design and that the enemy wants to do the opposite, we have to open our eyes and go, well, wait a second. It looks like the enemy is having some wins right now in our culture.
Here's how bad it is. If we are at 1.6 right now, we are not replenishing the population. We're at 2.1. When you're at 1.6 like we are, what happens is our population ages rapidly. All of a sudden you look up and you're like, where are the young people? Where are the teenagers? Why are we shutting down elementary schools? Why are we shutting down high schools? Why are our school districts going bankrupt? It's because the bulk of the people are in their retirement age and they're not in peak earning season anymore. And when the mass of the population is not earning, you're putting more weight on the earners, which is a shrinking demographic. Here's what that looks like. Too few working, supporting too few retirees leads to pension systems under pressure and even falling apart.
You mean too many retirees?
Too many retirees, too few workers. Our healthcare utterly blows up because you have, as you age, the healthcare needs rise and it is overwhelmed.
There's not enough people to work the healthcare.
There's not enough people to work the healthcare, and there's not enough people to pay for the healthcare.
For the demand.
Because the retirees are not in peak earning season. You have economic growth as a result stalls. And so you have a diminishing quality of life, a diminishing quality of living. You have a higher inflation. You have everything, prices rising. You have benefits collapse or the debt explodes. And one of the crazy ones, as I was researching this, culture collapses. And by culture, I mean the stories we tell, the values we hold. There's not enough people carrying forward the things that matter the most. It's the important stories are in too few hands. The important values are in too few hands. And so politically it can swing to the left, to the right. It's radical. As you can see, I'm painting a very gloomy picture.
Yeah.
But man, the more I've looked at this, I am ringing a bell. You know, it's one thing for people to kind of shift into conspiracy theory or whatever and be freaked out about coming apocalypse or whatever. This is real.
Yeah.
2.1 to 1.6, something needs to change quickly. Now, the good news is that the areas where fertility is flourishing, an initial look at it, it looks like the pockets of faith, good, strong biblical faith, fertility flourishes. And that's actually one of the reasons that they believe it's possible that the fertility rate is dropping is because for years, the belief in God, the church attendance, it had been dropping, particularly mainline denominations. And so what happens? Making babies drops, having marriages drops, having families drops. In the middle of that, God's saying, hey guys, if you don't do my design, society will collapse. We're going to devolve into something really, really ugly.
Yeah.
So it's time to make marriage and babies great again.
Yeah. And we just cry out to God for mercy and cry out to God ultimately for hearts to turn back to him. Because when we turn to God and we have that radical life transformation from God, it overflows into every area of our life, including how we do marriage, how we have babies. All of it's impacted when you're following God. And in addition to, just that, yes, very bleak picture that you painted with statistics, I just think of the here and now of the sadness of people. I remember recently, I don't remember her name, but I believe she was a famous, singer, And she was sharing, she was probably in her 30s, maybe, early 40s, late 30s. She was sharing how she had devoted her entire adulthood to her journey of success as a singer. And she was coming to a place where she wasn't married. She did not have any children. And she was confessing her fear that I had missed my opportunity to be a wife, to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And just questioning some of her life choices. I mean, I'm sure appreciating her success, appreciating the fame, but looking at the big picture and finding some of it meaningless in her life, where at some point you look around and think, who are my people? Who is my family? Who cares for me? Who cares about me? Who do I have to love? And I think that she was more of that famous kind of person sharing that. But I think she represents a lot of people and a lot of different paths. And one theory that I have, and I believe it's more than a theory, but I even caught myself experiencing some of these feelings early in our marriage. And I don't know how to quite put it into words. You can help me process it. But all of this boils down to messages that we are receiving and that we are believing that are not of God. And that's what happens in a culture and in the dark world that we live in, partnered with an enemy who lies and hearts that are deceived, is there's messages that we lock onto and believe. And for women, and I believe it started with feminism, it started before that, I'm sure, but the feminist movement and just this movement towards really now, it's like we don't need men, anti-men, no men, which I didn't feel that back in our early days at all. I was really looking for you for a long time and super excited when God brought you into my life. But that along those lines, there's this also school of thought of women, you've got to make your way in the world and you've got to create your career path and you've got to excel outside of the home. And it was almost a subliminal message that I never picked up from my mom and dad. I mean, they were the example of the opposite of what I'm about to say. So it wasn't from them, wasn't from you. I really believe society was, in a sense, I felt the pressure that career first and family second.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say that. And I didn't believe that, but I felt the pressure of that you couldn't have both, that you're either a stay-at-home mom or you are a working woman that's having to figure out your home, but how do you do both? And I think without God, you as my leader and God as my anchor, we walked through, because I did work outside the home, but we walked through the rhythm of what does that look like?
We made it work.
Yes. What does that look like without sacrificing?
Neither had to lose.
The priority of our children.
Yeah. That does impact. When you are a woman and you decide, I'm having babies, I'm going to be at home more, your income will drop.
Right.
And that's I have several little things and areas where research tells us this is why people are not having babies. They say, the one that is, we can't afford it. It's a financial reason. We can't afford it. And the picture I just painted for you is, as a culture, we can't afford not to have babies, but we can't afford it. And I understand that, but I think some things that I would really question. When you say we can't afford it, well, what's your lifestyle right now? Have you built a lifestyle that can't welcome children? Or and this is especially for young couples, I think this would help you so much, that when you're getting started, make room for a child, like in your budget, like before you grab that larger house or before you move out of the smaller place or the less expensive place, before you move out, hey, make sure you have the margin financially for a child. And
also manage your expectation that you're never going to be ready.
Yeah, you're never going to be.
You really are never going to be.
I'm not ready right now. I'm about to put 2 kids through college, and I'm telling you, man, it's incredible. I mean, you and I both are like, okay, so we have this many kids, we have paid for this many cars, we have paid for this much insurance, and yes, they work and help and all that kind of stuff, but still, it is a lot. And you and I have a temptation to look toward the edge of the horizon. Wow, what a raise we're going to get whenever finally. But the point is that the stress and the pressure of that, and then someone would tell me, well, then grandkids. And by the way, you still want to help your kids,
right?
And you help them find a home.
Right.
It just never stops.
Right.
Look, money's not the goal. Money is a tool to get to the goal.
That's right.
Money is a vehicle. Money's is not what makes the memories that you can have with a family. And this is the thing I would share with you. When you say I can't afford it, I think sometimes people are saying, I can't afford to go on vacation like I currently go. Because I know a lot of young singles, they're doing these crazy, expensive, extraordinary vacations.
Yeah.
And I'll just go ahead and tell you, some of our favorite vacations were staycations.
Yes.
We stayed in these little cheap hotels and we did all the free things our city would offer us.
Yes.
And our kids were laugh and it was awesome. I'm telling you right now, it's fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It's fulfilling. It doesn't have to be to the hilt expensive. So I just would challenge that we can't afford. I understand it can apply pressure, but we were having babies and we were counting our pennies and we were buying shaving cream so cheap it left a stain mark on our shower.
Yes, it did.
We've been there.
Yeah, we've been there.
But I wouldn't have gone back and said, let's not have babies so we can afford Target shaving cream.
No. There are things more important. What's the other reason?
Another one, fear. It's a fear reason. I don't want to bring a child into this broken world.
I've heard this as a counselor and just people, just loving and serving people. I've heard some people, and this is a specific type of person, and tell me if this meshes into another one that you have. But maybe the home you grew up in.
That's the psychological one, yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to combine those two, I don't want to bring somebody, I think when they say I don't want to bring somebody in this broken world, what they're saying is I see things out there. They'll say climate change, all that kind of stuff, or wars, or, I don't want to bring people into this world. I have fear of the world. I'm gripped by fear right now, and I don't want to bring them into it. You combine it with the psychological one is I had a bad upbringing from your issues. You don't want them to have or experience the same thing. It's a little different, but let's throw them in.
So typically, at least in my experience in counseling and that world, I have never seen those two separated out. I would say if you came from a family where God was the anchor and there was health in that family, not a perfect family, but a loving, stable, God-loving family, you are able to view the bad things happening in this world with an overcoming spirit. You're able to view, actually, that's why I need to have kids, because my children are arrows in the hands of a warrior. We're not hiding from the fight. We're fighting the good fight.
I got more people to help me fight.
Absolutely. And so it's a completely different mindset. So I do think those
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
I think
that's the whole thing.
Yeah. It goes together.
That's the whole thing. That right there. It just, when you have faith, it changes your mindset.
Absolutely. And so, one is so fear-based, and often I've heard in my counseling office and just talking with wonderful people that had hard places, that their upbringing was so traumatic, or their upbringing, the parent was so cold or so unavailable, or fill in the blank of what devastating things that our homes can contain. I mean, there really is no end to the horror or just to the sadness.
Brutal.
And people...
And we've heard it all.
Yes, heard so much. And then I hear something new. But people, great people, don't want to risk bringing a child into that.
Yeah.
I don't want another human being to hurt the way I hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want... And then you look through that lens, which is so unstable, that home was so unstable, to then see a world with so much instability. It can be very compelling to say, you know what, I'm going to save another human being the heartache.
But again, the mindset. When you have faith, you can tell that person, I know that when you're counseling that person, this is a process. But the mindset to say, number one, you're here.
Yeah.
Number two, it doesn't have to be like that, depending on the issues. Number three, fear is no foundation for your life. I could tell you story after story of people that have endured the worst. They have babies. They have healthy, happy families. Someone we know and love, just happy families, flourishing. And they wouldn't take it back, having babies and bringing them into this world. Another one is I want to have free. I want to have my freedom. I want to have fun.
Sure.
And I'd say, again, that's just the different mindset. I have some of the greatest joy of my life is being at my son's football practice. Some of the greatest joy of my life is raising kids with other friends and experiencing that together.
I think of so many meals where we, as a family, would sit down together and we would say, tell your best thing and your worst thing of your day. Tell your hard thing of today. Tell the best thing that happened today. And I can honestly remember so many times when you would say,
my best thing is right now.
that's what you would say.
That's the truth.
And you meant
I don't know what that means about the rest of my day,
Oh,
but
no, but
this is the best part of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we do things together as a family, we make those memories. And as you age, you begin to filter out the things that are super important.
Right.
And this is super important. This is a big deal.
Important.
I'd say the last thing is that they say that the houses of faith are where fertility is happening. And if what that means is that we have a great opportunity to change the world just by bringing godly children into this world. If we are at 1-6, what if the church could be the one that tilts it upward, and a great revival would tilt it upward? Mm-hmm. And for the gospel of Jesus Christ, we were bringing babies into this world that God had preordained to be born. We're bringing babies into this world who change the world, and we have more Christ followers. And what if that's what ushers in the second coming of Christ? I just am a big believer. Let's make America. Let's make families and babies and marriage great again. And wow, what a great overflow. What a great conversation. And let's lift high marriage. Let's lift high family. And we'll see you next time on The Overflow.